Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the vault, episode 700 and what, 97? Definitely excited about doing this episode, Homestead versus Land Trust. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're a long time listener, I don't know that. Yeah, you all know that that's what we talk about on this particular channel, on this particular podcast. We appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay, listening to the voice of trust, Christian own nothing, control everything. We gotta talk about this today because we seen recently, did a post recently on one of the social platforms, and it's started a conversation. And sure, there can always be a blanket level response to things, and there's an in-depth response to things. And so this isn't legal advice or financial advice. It's for you to have a conversation with your legal counsel, or with your land, with whoever, accounting, whoever. Why would this be beneficial? Your estate planner, why would this be beneficial? So Trust Christian here is to have a conversation about it because this has sparked a debate. Trust Christian, should we be doing a land trust or a homestead? So there's people in the public that will say, oh yeah, it's good to put your house in a homestead. It's going to protect you from, personal situations. No one will ever be able to take your property. So we posed the question in a debate, well, what if an individual has multiple properties? Can you homestead a property in every state? What if you have multiple properties in a state? Can you homestead more than one property in a state? Of course not. So the homestead is for poor people. It's not for people that have multiple properties. When you have multiple properties, there's a trust structure that's in place. Some people would like to say it's a land trust in place. That could be possible. Why? Because a land trust can hold property without your name. So the homestead is going to hold it with your name, but supposedly no one could take it, but it only could be on one, supposedly in the state. But if you have multiple properties in the state, how's that beneficial? See, some people like to take the approach, I'm gonna put a band-aid on a broken bone. It's not a band-aid approach to everything. It's like saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna take Tylenol for everything. Or we're not giving, once again, medical advice. It's not saying that you're supposed to take, one thing for everything. But the one thing we know for sure is that all wealthy people and all elite are operating in trust. That's why so many different types of trust. You got a land trust, you got the qualified medical trust, you got the spendthrift trust, you got the generational skipping trust. Why do they have all these trusts? Because they understand that it first starts with contract. We understand first that nothing, you trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. See, that's our first law, that's our first principle. Because you can't ever own anything. But people think, oh well, if I own it and then I put it in a homestead, I'm still protected. But in the land trust, you wouldn't own it anymore, correct? So then we get down to even further where some people don't understand it. If they start the trust and then they're still a trustee, they don't understand it. It could be considered a living trust. And this is what most attorneys know, but they won't tell you why, because they know if you're still involved and you started it, you're ultimately going to come back to them because you're going to need their help because you truly didn't give away the assets. Something Trust Christian can tell you on the podcast here, but that's the case. You didn't truly give up ownership of the asset. It looks like you gave up ownership, but then you also are still in control. And in systems nowadays in the public side, it cannot be that way. It just can't. But it can be that way if you're in a homestead. Think about it, you could be in a homestead and not even be in a trust. So people can still search the property with your name on it. Oh, but they can't steal it from you. I only have one property, Trust Christian. That's all it is. So when we talk about the land trust, we're not promoting the land trust. Some people in the vault that have gone through the vault, they say, oh, Trust Christian, do we need a land trust now? No, no one's saying that you need a land trust, but this is giving you a contrast with the benefits of being in trusteeship and quote unquote, maybe we've seen recently where someone still had their name as a trustee on the document, but they were really the grantor still. And on the county record, when we looked up the records, it said that they were the trustee. Well, okay, what happens when you are financially well off and you don't want to be listed as a trustee of the property? There could be multiple trustees of the property. So why would you be listed at that point? But see, this is what happens when the education is not in the public, and that's fair because it's not. It's private information. It's not supposed to be in the public, but you may see drips and drabbles of information that leaks to the public and says, "Oh yeah, trust Christian." Like some people may get upset that we're talking in this language of public and private. Oh, trust Christian, don't tell me that. There's no such thing as privacy. Hey, the government says it's no privacy. It's no privacy, and that's what you think. But everything has been started from a contract, which technically is considered to be private because people were before the state. People created the state. So Trust Christian sitting here saying to you guys, "Oh, Trust Christian, I'm slick. I'm a homestead property." You think we haven't heard this throughout the years from trustees? Oh, you only got one stinking property. That's why you gotta get a homestead. Yeah, that's why they're looking for a homestead, because they have one property. But we have multiple properties. That idea comes to a halt. And then we get into what? Trusteeship. Then we get into trust. And they understand, oh wow, okay, yeah, I knew I was going to be wealthy, exactly, because wealthy people have the assets being held in the proper position, not in the public position that, oh yeah, I can still go search their name on the property so you can pull up on me. Not at all. See, some people would say, oh, trust Christian, don't celebrities know this? No, not a lot of celebrities know. So you can't be upset that, oh, my favorite rapper's rapper or my favorite actor's actor, they're not in trusteeship. Trust Christian. I seen it when it all fell apart, when they passed away, and they finally talked about their estate and it wasn't in full capacity. It doesn't sound like it was private, right? So if it's private, you may never hear anything about it. Yeah, that person passed, right? And you didn't hear anything else about it because the estate was properly set up. Sometimes you'll hear out of nowhere, oh yeah, well X, Y, and Z, they didn't have this, and their children are fighting over something in court, and guess what? Beneficiaries, people of the estate, will sometimes try to bring the estate to the public. Oh yeah, we're gonna bring the estate to the public. They're not giving us our money. They're not letting us live in this property, whatever it is. So they try to, celebrities, child, may try to take it to the public, and by taking it to the public, they're trying to, basically get help to say, we need you guys to look into this private situation. Get the public to look into this private situation. So the tabloids creates a story. X, Y, and Z estate having some issues with the beneficiary, may not be paying them. They may be living on the street. Okay, that's a story. And so that's the difference. Is the family estate set up to where it can maintain its privacy? Something happens with the beneficiaries, they're definitely gonna have some consequences. See, these are the things you think about in trusteeship for sure. Because everybody would like to say, "Oh, I don't want my kid to do what I do." Well, if you don't want your kid to do what you did, that means they may not be a trustee. They may not sit at the table and make decisions. Since trustees want to talk like that, I don't want my kid to do what I do. Well, what is that? Be a steward of talent? A steward of assets? The right mindset? Oh no, trust Christian. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna let them do whatever they want in their life. And then now you know why. You're gonna have to have someone else as the trustee over the family estate because you let your kids do whatever you wanted them to do, let them do whatever they wanted to do, and they're not following in the footsteps of the family estate. You people want to sit here and play games with it. We'll give you an idea of what it looks like. Some people say, "Oh, trust Christian. You don't know. I don't want to force my kids to do it." Okay, we sit around other wealthy families that have children. And they're not on the first generation, they're on the second and third generation. So some people say, oh wow, it's getting a little deep here. Yeah, these people, they're actually 3 generations all sitting at the same table. Correct. Somehow in a wealthy environment, they sit in 3 generations at the table, and then other families say, oh no, I wouldn't want my kids to do what I gotta do or do what I'm doing because, trust Christian, I'm, what, you gotta learn something? Oh no, I don't want them to work as hard as I had to. Okay, we sit in a room with other wealthy families, and most of the kids aren't working as hard as the previous generation for sure. Maybe they are in some cases. We don't want to deny people their flowers, but yes, usually the previous generations have done a massive amount of heavy lifting, and we're talking about wealth generation now, wealth preservation. We're not talking about, oh, we're trying to build it 3 generations later. No, we're talking about you pass down significant monies to second and third generation. It got bigger each generation, and so it's not, you're not passing down something that's going to get smaller. See, think about how people's mindset is. Are you looking to pass down something that may get smaller, or are you going to pass down something that's going to get bigger? Because if you're going to pass down something to get bigger, who else would you trust? But what happens is people have a public mindset. They've been divided. My family's been divided. Okay, that's the case. It's the same thing with this information. Oh, homestead. I'm either going to homestead the house, or I'm going to make sure that it's in the right position so I can have multiple properties in the same state and still not have my name on it. Oh, Judge Christian, I didn't know privacy was that simple. We've had a lot of professional athletes reach out to the vault. A lot of people reach out to the vault. Okay, that's that we're just sharing with you that they understand. Okay, well, I have some money. They got some money, right? And they want to make sure that when they're acquiring properties, they're doing it in the right capacity. Because they understand, okay, if I keep doing this in my name, we're just going to keep putting more liabilities in my name. Homestead. But oh no, Trust Christian, I heard in the public, somebody told me, I heard about this thing. Your name's still on the property though. We're there when you're dealing with people that have significant money. They want to protect it. Some people that say, "Oh, Trust Christian, I don't have anything to protect." Well, we're not saying we're not talking to you, but you're getting ready to go into a situation, and so why not go into the situation prepared? Some people may say, "Oh, is that how it is for wealthy families? When someone wants to go out and get some real estate or something, they go through the family estate, they go through the family trust." Yes, that's what happens. They go through the family estate. They go through the family trust. That's what they do. That's what they do. Oh, Trust Christian. Yep. But how many people are going through that route? They going out, oh man, I gotta do it in my name. I gotta get a mortgage in my name. Think about how the thinking process of someone that literally, when they think about going to get a property, they think about, I gotta get it in a mortgage. And we're not against it, but what we're saying is, okay, you can say, oh, I need to go out and get a mortgage, but you're not saying that for a business. A commercial real estate loan is something that has better interest rates on it. Why wouldn't someone be thinking that route? Because they just haven't been trained. They don't know. We get it. We're there with them. But once you get past that hurdle of, okay, I'm not doing this in my name. This is business. It's not personal. And this business is not personal. It turns into business. It's not a personal residence. It's a business residence now. Oh man, Trust Christian, is that how the elite are living? That's how the wealthy living? That's how they living out here? It's in front of your face. You see it all the time, of course. You see it all the time. You see it all the time. It's in front of you all the time. But are you aware of what's going on? Do you see what's going on? Can you identify now, okay, this is public and this is private? That's half the battle. That's half the battle. And then identifying who you are. Are you going to be the owner for the rest of your life, the beneficial owner, or are you going to be the trustee? And once again, we even say as a trustee, it doesn't mean that you're doing everything. You're not doing everything. As they say, oh yeah, why do corporations go to Delaware? Supposedly it's to go there so they can have protections from, what is that, from lawsuits and things of that nature. Okay? Some people say, oh, it's the state where companies go public. Yes, because it's kind of like a land, we don't want to call it a land trust state, but it's one of those states where it protects the quote unquote fiduciaries. Or do you identify yourself every day as a fiduciary of life? Do you identify yourself every day as a steward of life? Or is it just, oh, trust Christian, I'm getting up every day on autopilot? Oh, yeah, there are many getting up on autopilot. For some of you all looking to break the habit of getting up on autopilot, then we're going to go ahead and give you the heads up. Trust Christian, the Trustee Training Program, is about implementing a accountability system, a goal achieving system. See, we can talk about it. If you guys, for everybody who's listened to this episode, you guys, if you love anything about, homestead and land trust, that's great. You got it. For all the trustees out here that are, oh, trust Christian, I knew it was something else. You knew it was something else, right? Yeah, I knew it was something else, trust Christian. But do you know who you're supposed to be in trusteeship? Do you know what the best version of yourself looks like in trusteeship? Do you know? Because a lot of trustees will say, oh, yeah, trust Christian, I don't know. That's right. You got to sit down, you got to take the time, and you got to map it out. You got to write it out. You got to draw it out. Maybe not literally, but you got to draw some attributes of what this new version of yourself is as a trustee. How many hours are you studying a day? Or maybe not an hour, maybe it's less than an hour. What are you going to do in that respect for trusteeship? Oh man, trust Christian, that means I gotta write down that I'm gonna start getting out to go to events. Everybody like to say, oh yeah, I'm gonna get out and go to events. No, we're talking about now putting events on the calendar and going out to them. It's not, oh, I might get around to it. No, it's, I have it on the calendar. That's where we're gonna be. The family estate has an appointment there. Family estate has a date to be at this particular event. Oh man, trust Christian, man, I gotta be a trustee. You don't have to be a trustee. But if you're gonna be a trustee, Trust Christian gonna tell you a lot of this stuff y'all come from. If you come from a poor background, if you come from a poverty background, at the end of the day, nothing about your life is gonna be the same. So how could you expect, oh, the transition that I'm gonna make is gonna look normal? How's it gonna look normal? And everything that you're encountering or supposed to encounter for generational wealth is supposed to be at a different level. But see, people don't want to hear that because then they know, oh wow, I might not be the same person anymore. Meaning that they may not dress the same, they may not talk the same. We were talking to someone earlier today. So some people may say, oh, I trust Christian. You don't talk the same anymore. You don't talk the same anymore. That's all they're going to say, right? Right, because we learned the language. Did you learn the language? See, we were on allowance on earlier day. Trust Christian. Now we gotta learn the language. We don't know the language. Right. Trust Christian knows the language. Do you know the language? Oh no, Trust Christian. I do know it. I know English. No, you don't know legalese. Trust Christian knows legalese. When you know legalese, you can have conversations in the legal system. You can talk to attorneys. You can talk to them about the contracts that they got you in. Homestead and land trust. Homestead versus land trust. We had to do this episode to a degree because it's one of those episodes. A lot of people bring this word up to us a lot, especially the homestead one. And then every now and then you get the whole land trust thing. Oh man, trust Christian. I want to do a land trust. What about land trust state? Here's a land trust state. There's no, ladies and gentlemen. That's how I know you're getting fooled. Oh, this is a land trust state. The ones that talk about themselves being land trust states, that just means that they have a lot of trust in those states that are managing and holding land. It doesn't mean that every state's not a land trust state. How's every state not a land trust state? You could take a land trust into every state, right? But what you saying then? See, Trust Christian gonna go ahead and get rid of the myths and the spookiness out of it. Oh, Trust Christian, this is a land trust state. You got a lot of these guys, attorneys in other words, that's a land trust state. Yeah, because they got public information. They not Trust Christian in the vault. We private. We understand. They don't know that. Because if they did, then they don't have a counter argument to it. Oh, this state is favorable for them. Okay, that's fine. That's like saying, well, why do people open up a corporation in the state where they're at as opposed to everybody opening them up in Delaware? You don't opening up the entity in another state all the time, or just because it's supposedly a great place. But it doesn't mean where you're at is not going to still be able to hold the entity or be successful with it. Well, oh man, this is a land trust state trust, Christian. Okay, well, what's that supposed to mean? Explain that. What is? They're favorable for land trust. Yeah, so there's other states that you can still operate with the same land trust from the state that you're operating in that state, and they're not gonna care. In the respective, it's not a bad thing. So then, okay, the other one just has a little bit more protection. It's got more cases where people have done things in that state with trust and things of that nature for the land and all that good stuff. Okay, great. Sounds great. Oh, we're gonna go to one of these states where they try to say you can't own a property? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, you can't own property in this state. Y'all want to talk about it? Is that where we are in America now? Where people want to say and say, oh yeah, I live in a state where you can't own property. Is that what y'all want to talk about? Cause then we could talk about, oh yeah, you might as well get the homestead, right? If you can't own property, but if you, once again, obviously you can be the beneficial owner or you can be the trustee. Land trust. You could be the beneficial owner of the homestead, or you could be the trustee land trust. Simple. Some people may try to make it deep, make it more complex. That's the case. This is the case. Trusteeship. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the Vault, episode 797. Homestead versus land trust. Trust Christian, know not to control everything. Feel free to reach out. Look forward to hearing from y'all. Peace and joy.